From the humble beginnings of Mvezo village, Transkei in South Africa's province of the Eastern Cape, a statesman, a unifier, and a leader of note was born. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela grew to leadership ranks in his movement, the African National Congress. His activism against apartheid led to his capture in 1962 and imprisonment in 1964 at Robben Island.
It is an idea for which I hope to live for and to see realized. If it needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die.
Mandela emerged a unifying magnet in a country where genocide and bloodshed was a threat any moment to peaceful and safe elections in 1994.
In the name of peace, democracy and freedom for all, I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people.
Mandela became a symbol of unity during his life and still continues posthumously with his ideals and his legacy. His love for his people, especially the children and the poor, will live in many of our minds and souls forever. As we celebrate the centenary of the birth of Madiba, we also commemorate 100 years of a remarkable and rooted woman, Mama Albertina Sisulu, who was arrested under the General Laws Amendments Act in 1963 and later nominated Nelson Mandela in Parliament to become South Africa's first democratic president in 1994.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela for election as president.
Will you please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God"?
So help me God.
The centenary of Madiba and Masisulu symbolizes both the struggle against apartheid and the democracy we continue to enjoy today. Their lives are a legacy our country and the world will cherish for generations. Parliament of the Republic of South Africa salutes these two liberation struggle giants. Our country will remain indebted for their sweat and that of many heroes.
Prior to the negotiations, the country was in turmoil. The Nationalist Party had succeeded in fragmenting our country, dividing our people, and oppression was at its sharpest end. South Africa was a mess, but at the same time, the people who wanted liberation and freedom, they were marching to their destiny. A free, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic South Africa.
This task is a great challenge to all of us and requires discipline, dedication, sacrifice on our part.
After the 94 elections, we had to build the final constitution. It was the Constitutional Assembly that conducted it.
That Constitutional Assembly will be made by the elected parliament, both houses sitting together, representatives of the people.
One of the most challenging processes was who's going to write the final constitution. The ANC was adamant that an elected body shall do that for a simple reason, because the moment you had an election, they would have the majority.
Because there were no winners in the conflict of South Africa, you still have to use the route of reaching decisions through consensus.
The first big thing the Constitution had to do was to dismantle and destroy the systems of apartheid, of racial supremacy, create a democracy that would be open, and introduce majority rule, which meant self-determination.
It was bringing together two enemies. But precisely because the two enemies had never spoken, the closeness of the negotiations actually started saying to the negotiators, we are just South Africans. We all need to survive.
The ANC was not, coerced into negotiations. It used it as a terrain of struggle to achieve this democratic moment that we have today.
The interim constitution gave us 2 years within which we had to agree. Otherwise, there was a possibility that we would then have to dissolve.
It was important for us to sustain an atmosphere which convinced white South Africans who were in power at the time that we were committed to the negotiations and that we would negotiate in good faith.
We are such a diverse society with different histories. Passions get very high in this country. We've had so much conflict in the past. And what holds us together is that we are all citizens of this one country, and our rights are defined in the Constitution.
All right, I know what you're waiting for. You want the 411 on the Constitution. Tell us what it is and what it means to a person on the street.
Constitution is a supreme law that governs the actions of the legislature and the executive at all times. The Constitution also really enshrines the values and principles that as a nation we would be aspiring to in the Bill of Rights and in the preamble to the Constitution.
Essentially, the task that we had was to ensure that we have a constitution drafted by more than 40 million people.
I'm Cyril Ramaphosa, the chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly.
I'm Rolf Meyer, the leader of the National Party delegation in the negotiations.
Our constitution needs to protect that rights.
I'm going to receive a petition from the people, the workers, who have marched against the Constitutional Assembly.
Big business was entitled to an extent to be protected. At the same time, COSATU was adamant that the lockout would not be included in the Constitution.
We are about to reach the final stages of completing the Constitution.
We had resolved most of the problems in the Bill of Rights, but those that remained were the most important and most difficult to solve.
To receive education in the language and in accordance with the religious, and that's also a problem to you.
Piet Maree for a long time warned me that education is going to be the most difficult issue to get agreement on.
The National Party was particularly obstinate and I would say irrational when it came to the education clause.
What are we going to do, Pete?
I don't know. I believe we must admit more or less deadlocked. We had to address the issues and stop beating about the bush.
And how do you go to the 8th and deadlock on a simple issue like this?
They were simply at a loss, completely paralyzed with this particular issue.
Constitutional negotiators have achieved major breakthroughs in their through-the-night talks to reach agreement on a final draft constitution.
All parties will be entitled to make and propose amendments to the Constitution, and all those amendments will then be considered in a committee stage. Finally, on the 8th of May, the Constitution with the amendments will be put to the Constitutional Assembly, and hopefully at that stage we will have a 2/3 majority to endorse our 2 years' work.
Then there are other amendments which flesh out our view of what the Constitution should be like. They're not frivolous and they're not, but they together with the core ones would say if we could get everything, that's what it would look like.
The right to life, sexual orientation clause, you're going to do the preamble. I'm going to have a look at socio-economic rights and, of course, the issue of horizontal and vertical application of the Bill of Rights. Yeah.
The big and major one for us is, of course, the property clause, that it must be there to provide access to land rather than protection to private property.
24th of April 1996.
Political parties have been given until this afternoon to make their belated submissions to amend the Constitution. The Management Committee of the Constitutional Assembly will sit today to look into suggestions. Ramaphosa says he doesn't expect proposed amendments to the draft Constitution to delay the adoption of the Constitution by May the 8th. Constitutional Assembly subcommittees are to continue negotiations today on the nearly 300 proposed amendments to the draft Constitution. Several deal with substantive changes to the sections dealing with education, language, property rights, and the rights of striking workers.
On both sides, one has reservations that are going to be very, very difficult to overcome. Almost impossible.
People began to talk of deadlocks. You were reaching almost a critical stage.
Pressure from COSATU on this process. I don't think this is an issue which we can accept at this stage.
The strike action tomorrow is unlawful and unprocedural.
How does this item come here?
Mr. Ramaphosa.
On whether the strike by COSATU tomorrow is procedural or not procedural.
COSATU was protesting to stop the inclusion of a clause in the Constitution that would allow employers to lock out striking workers.
I don't think we are going to adopt a constitution if both of us still hold on to our position.
DP or the National Party or the ACDP. No, but the point is this. Why must the ANC abuse? Why must they take their money out of the country?
No, Mr. Fourie. I've got nothing against businesses.
Patricia, let me help.
At one stage, Cyril and myself, we were saying to each other, now we have problems.
We are faced with a situation where the National Party wants us to constitutionally entrench single medium, clearly African schools. And we think that to actually do that would be a return to Verwoerd apartheid.
Some of the newspapers, like Rapport, for instance, clearly almost put a gun against the National Party's head. If you give in on education, that's the end of it.
The point had been reached that if need be, we would hold a referendum.
The onus really was on the National Party because it had become very clear to them that we cannot move beyond this and still carry their constituency alone.
I went to my leader, Mr. de Klerk, and I said to him, we are deadlocked on this thing. I don't see any way out. It's either we go for a referendum or we settle for something unsatisfactory.
The ANC wanted to avoid having a referendum because it would show that they had failed. The opposition wanted to avoid having a referendum because they would have ended up with a worse constitution.
I can promise you we are about to finalize this agreement.
We didn't really know what the National Party was going to do.
Are you confident that the referendum has been averted?
We will be able to tell when the Constitutional Committee receives the report.
The whole drama will unfold there. And this is the call to make the final approval or not. Hello. Yeah. Okay.
I am informed, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a settlement.
I believe that we have struck a balance.
We are glad of the further improvements.
The right to be taught in mother tongue instruction.
We'll have to report back to them, I therefore reserve my position.
We do believe that it was in the interests of our country that we find some solution to this problem.
Well, that, Mr. Chairperson, is the happy conclusion, possibly one of the most emotive causes in the enterprise.
Exercising an awesome responsibility, it is my duty as chairperson to urge all of us in this assembly, even those who might have some reservations, to vote today for a democratic and free South Africa.
It's not the document of some or other political party. It's really a consensus document. It belongs to the South African nation.
We never reached consensus on lockout. But on the other two, property and education, I'm happy to say that I think we have reached satisfactory compromises.
Let us all give our country its true birth certificate. The people of our country expect no less of us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Constitution, important as it is, it's a piece of paper. But it must be a piece of paper that lays the basis for real and genuine democratic transformation.
A basis for us as a country to really attend to all the problems that had necessitated the struggles that we've waged over the centuries.
Noes 2, abstentions 10. The question has therefore been agreed to.
We could really say now we have one common law that unites us.
As one, you, the representatives of the overwhelming majority of South Africans, have given voice to the yearnings of millions.
I am requested to close the proceedings at 12 o'clock.
The period when we made the Constitution still seems very close. I remember the emotions. It was such a huge achievement at the time, and now it's become the normal part of the very makeup of what South Africa is.
Men of character took upon responsibility to put aside their selfish interest for the sake of the nation. And that was the best way to move forward, because the negotiations culminated into a constitution that saved many lives.
From such a racially divided society, to equate that and build a nation for all was a profound challenge in being able to articulate now a constitution that is for all, where the rule of law was more important than the rule of men.
We may not have agreed with the outcome or the point of departure even, but obviously you had to talk. In the end, you had to talk.
We've given South Africa a new identity, critically so. Black and white South Africans feel that they belong together.
Essentially, our Constitution is a transformational document. And in some cases, it can be seen as a revolutionary document. It formed a break with a terrible past, and the two are like night and day.
We need to commemorate because 20 years is quite a long time to forget good things, to forget why we struggled so hard to get the Constitution we have. I think it is also just long enough for us to appreciate its weaknesses and to look at how it has impacted not only on Parliament but onto the men and the women in the street.
Today, we've got so many South Africans who are homeless, who are living in poverty, who are still using sanitation that is deplorable. So we can't just live with a document, we've also got to give effect to the document.
How do we start to waive the Constitution when we engage with the people and say, okay, you're complaining about water, but look here, on this page in the Bill of Rights, these are the rights that you have, and no one can do anything outside this book, so that they have faith in the Constitution as the shield that should and can protect them.
The last 20 years have been unbelievably dramatic years in the history of our country. We have really done a great deal to change the social contours of this country, and the quality of lives of many South Africans has been improved. We may not have done enough on the economic side. I would like to see a situation in 5 years' time where nobody says, I, hogged the wealth of this country. I want to see everyone saying, I supported inclusive growth, because that is what we need in our country.
Our Constitution has allowed us to have your National Council of Provinces. And what is good about this kind of an approach is that the National Council of Provinces will always engage people, taking parliament to the people.
After 20 years, we're looking at ourselves and saying, as the NCOP, are we doing what the people who established the NCOP were hoping?
Our long talks and discussions was worthwhile because of the way in which I think even other countries in the world respect South Africa because of this kind of constitution.
I strongly believe South Africa is going to be one of the greatest nations, not only on the African continent, but in the world.
It's time to build on what is good, put aside what is bad, and ensure that we entrench our democracy. Now we have our constitution. It should not only be a paper.
In your hands, you've got a constitution that enables you to pass legislation, to deal with the past, to deal with what is preventing our people from getting a better life.
Democracy has also allowed us the right to cycle leaders, and if a leader does not uphold constitutionalism, we as the people can remove that leader. And I think that is us giving effect in many ways to constitutionalism.
Our constitution enables our people to check and balance us. Unpleasant as it is beautiful.
It's not the constitution that we'll expect. The entire system, the way I see it from the PAC perspective, is that it's more favorable to the haves.
Instead of celebration, I think there's supposed to be a far much deeper reflection on the Constitution, identify its weaknesses, strengthen it, and then set a new path for the next 20 years.
We had a great opportunity to change the political contours of this country, to introduce democracy. Great opportunity that freed everyone, because even the oppressor was freed. And this time round, we have another great opportunity that is also going to free those who have wealth when we transform the economy of our country and make the economy more inclusive so that we can have shared prosperity.
These 20 years has been very important in giving us lessons where to improve, where to strengthen. It was always meant to arm us with ways to handle matters and institutions and places and procedures of how best to continuously handle one another.
There are certain areas where we need to say, yes, this clause was relevant then, but there have been some challenges here and there. How do we make sure that we close the gap and remain a strong country in the world?
It is our biggest shield. It is what we all agreed on. It may not be as perfect as some people want, but it carries the most important rights that we fought for.
Parliament's celebration of the 20th years of the Constitution is a significant milestone. In Africa, it's a significant milestone for us as South Africans because it celebrates the fact that we have this profound constitution that enshrines all of our rights as citizens.
In the end, the credit must be given to the people of our country who were hungry for freedom.
Shortly after his visit to China, KwaZulu-Natal Premier Mr. Willis Mchunu is confident that being part of BRICS will usher in a new era characterized by employment and prosperity. Premier was speaking during a sword-turning ceremony marking the beginning of a construction of a China-South Africa smelter park in Colenso. The Premier was joined by the leader of government business in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Sihle Zikalala, and management of China-South Africa smelter park and investors from China during this historic occasion. The China-South Africa smelter park will have a privately owned coal-fired power station which will be developed in 3 phases of 300 megawatts each. According to Willis Mchunu, this sword-turning ceremony marks an important milestone in the struggle against poverty and underdevelopment. He says more than 8,000 direct jobs will be created for the local community during the construction, and more than 12 indirect jobs will be created over a 5-year period.
For us, amongst other things, it will deal with energy, and we have regarded energy as a very important tool for the eradication of poverty, inequality and unemployment. And for us, for the energy economy, the electricity supply is pivotal. The importance of energy supply lies in both improving the quality of life for the previously disadvantaged, as well as supporting large-scale industrial development. With a smelter of this magnitude, it should be possible to then have spin-offs of other industrial developments right through the province and the country. And that's what we expect.
He says this multi-billion rands project is as a result of being part of the BRICS bloc, saying that the signing of MOUs with foreign countries should be followed by the implementations.
It's no use entering into paper agreements that are not followed by actions. And therefore, we say let's develop from these MOUs that we all the time sign, especially with our willing partner, the Chinese people, Chinese government and the Chinese people. There is a strong willingness from the Chinese people to work with our business people here.
MEC for Economic Development in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Seihle Zikalala, congratulated the people of Colenso for this milestone.
As the country were known of being a consuming economy, we always absorb what is manufactured and produced by other countries. And these projects, this investment, will result in a situation where we become producers instead of always consuming. And therefore it will go a long way in the creation of jobs. And we'll want to thank you for ensuring that you choose Colenso for this investment, given the high level of unemployment that is affecting this region.
For KZN Provincial Government News, I am Vundo Busani in Colenso. KwaZulu-Natal province is poised to become an economic powerhouse as leaders at the helm of the government resources are taking advantage of bilateral relations between South Africa and other countries to drive socio-economic development. This was apparent this weekend when the government of KwaZulu-Natal and the government of Guangdong province in the People's Republic of China signed a memorandum of understanding. This MOU was signed to strengthen the sister province relationship between Guangdong and KwaZulu-Natal, and it is expected to provide a firm foundation for entrepreneurs from KwaZulu-Natal to explore the Chinese market and gain inroads into the Asian region. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Mr. Willis Mchunu says KZN cannot prosper in isolation.
We are determined as the province of KwaZulu-Natal to take advantage of opportunities offered by being part of the BRICS bloc. Having hosted the BRICS summit, we understand that the BRICS bloc is an organization established to safeguard the interests of the so-called developing nations. And we want to state unequivocally that our country believes that our long-term success lies in economic integration with economies of the world, because we cannot prosper in isolation.
The leader of government business in KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Sihle Zikalala, took the Godong delegation on a tour of areas to be considered for investment, such as Dube Trade Port economic zones. There was also a presentation detailing the potential of Richards Bay Industrial Development Zones as a host for foreign direct investment. Zikalala says the relationship between these provinces will create space for investments that will offer job opportunities.
As we interact with the government of Guangdong, one of the intentions of this interaction is to ensure that we increase the number of people and companies that invest in KwaZulu-Natal, so that we will create more job opportunities for our people. But we also value their perspective, that they respect us and they come for a mutual relationship which seek to benefit both of us. They are not intending to take the raw material of South Africa to their own countries, but they are interested in investing in South Africa so that jobs will be created in South Africa.
For KZN Provincial Government News, I am Fundo Busani in Durban.
Emasimini Chabula Machangwe Kribitega Watinu Mama Zakalinkomo Zabuyinkomo Emasimini Matongwe Kribitega Watinu Mama Zakalinkomo Zisalom Saba Zisayin Jabulo Zubutla Makule Slambe khalizinja khalunina khalinkomo kwenzenjani na.
Reasons why you should invest in South Africa. Number 1, hot emerging market. Number 2, the number 1 diversified economy in Africa. Number 3, the largest presence of multinationals on the African continent. Number 4, progressive constitution and independent judiciary. Number 5, favorable market access to global markets. Number 6, abundant natural resources. Number 7, advanced financial services and banking sector. Number 8, world-class infrastructure and logistics. Number 9, young, trainable labor force. And number 10, excellent quality of life.
Inspiring new ways.
South Africa has made considerable progress since the inception of democracy in 1994. The country has 4 mobile operators with 98% 3G coverage, 73% 4G. 54% of the population is using internet. The country is connected to 4 submarine and over 400 internet service providers. In the area of technological innovation, South Africa has the largest and most sensitive radio telescope in the world, the Square Kilometre Array, also known as SKA. Our goal is to make ICTs accessible and affordable to all citizens. As a country, we are exploiting the opportunities brought about with the 4th Industrial Revolution. With the establishment of the Presidential Advisory Commission on the 4th Industrial Revolution, we are working with the ITU, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, World Economic Forum, and other partners to establish a digital transformation center. The center will serve as a hub to incubate enterprise talent and harness innovation. Our candidacy for the ITU Council is in line with our commitment to strengthen the ICT sector nationally and be part of the African and international digital community in driving digital transformation and ICT for development. The ICT sector remains a key enabler and driver for socio-economic development. South Africa continues to champion the AU Agenda 2063, as well as the UN Sustainable Development Goals through ICTs. Since 2006, South Africa has served in the African Union government structure, the Bureau for Communications and Information Communications Technology, with the goal to connect Africa. Since 2015, South Africa, represented by the Minister of Telecommunications and Postal Services, served in the ITU UNESCO Broadband Commission, whose goal is to drive ICT and broadband-based technologies for sustainable development. As government, we remain firmly committed to the development of the ICT sector and championing the development agenda. There is much work that still needs to be done to ensure the sustained growth of the ICT sector worldwide and connecting people online. As a developing country, we are keenly aware that many countries are faced with historical legacies that include a lack of ICT infrastructure, digital technology, and resources. However, we believe that the ITU can make a valuable contribution to the alleviation of inequality and to boost economic growth both in Africa and globally. As a dedication to promoting International ICT Arena, South Africa recently hosted the ITU Telecom World 2018 in September 2018. Because of our commitment to promote development, gender mainstreaming, equitable representation, multilateralism, and to strengthen a rules-based international system, South Africa is standing for election to the ITU Council. Working together, South Africa will continue to move ICT forward.
For far too long, farmers in Limpopo have been shipping their produce to markets in Gauteng and elsewhere in the country fresh from the soil, something that has disadvantaged them in terms of pricing. The provincial government kept its promise of assisting emerging farmers by erecting the Ngwanedi Pack House.
The Ngwanedi project was conceived some years ago by the department after realizing the potential that the area has in terms of increasing the production of vegetable in the area, especially in the Vembe area, the Ngwanedi Valley. And we felt as a department that we need to support them to make sure that by the time their produce reaches the market, is actually still in the right condition. The intention is to make sure that their produce is increased from their current level of production to an increased level of production.
Currently, balimi ndikale rikoshuma pack house isiwo tsini na rine richikono to isa after zwa rine city deep Durban mara risa zviboni uri kurengisele kwaone kukochimbira hani.
The Ngwanedi Pack House assists farmers around the Ngwanedi area to package and process their products up to the stage of marketing them even to foreign countries.
To be able to can supply the market every day on a continuous basis without stopping, we then allocate, we divide the program into a number of farmers into hectareage, so that by the time that the season will be ending, we no longer have that type of crop. We then shift over. That's the initial plan. When we go to summer season, because we are now in the winter season, we will be looking at those crops that will do much better.
With this infrastructure here,
We're currently introducing them to different markets, like the export market and the more sophisticated retail. So with the pack house, not only are you marketing them, but then it also attracts different customers to start to come to inquire about what kind of commodities are we supplying.
Wanedi is one of the initiatives to bring the emerging farmers into the mainstream economy. Our economy is vulnerable because the majority of South Africans are in the periphery of completely shut out.
Zvilimwa zvanga izvi zvendalima ndoisa pack house zvikotakalelwa na Germany. Zvino zvikontutuwedza kuti ndise phanda nolima. Ye pack house iko pamanda iko mumandafadza kuti ndilime zvithu zvanga zvichiyani ngeGermany ndamashango.
Agricultural sector has a huge potential to change the lives of the people in Limpopo. As you know, Limpopo is a rural province, and also because agriculture has been identified as one of the key economic drivers.
This intervention by the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development brought a new dawn to farmers around the Nwanedi area.
I appeal to beneficiaries to use it as a launchpad to commercialize farming. I appeal to established farmers and stakeholders to lend a hand to make farming fashionable.
Rine sa valimi kha department ya agriculture rivona vori itela zwithu zwine agriculture inga si tsha kona uri iwe nga uri vha khou dzula vha tshi ri humbulela uri ri kone u bvelela.
We buy seedlings for them, we buy seeds for them, we buy fertilizers, the chemicals, and we supply them until they start harvesting.
We will look at the interest of each and every stakeholder in ensuring that this project is not the history. It is something that we will be able to say it's a legacy to be coped with.
Vunji ya zwithu hafha masimuni wa tshi kona uri arali zwa vhukuma mitengo yotsa zwi sinela masimuni kana zwo ḓalesa zwi sinela masimuni wa wana ri si tsha kona uri ri zwi hwale ri zwi se market ngori zwi sala tsha market zwi ḓo vha zwo sina.
The pack house has been constructed according to what we call the global gap standards. What that means is that whatever that is produced from the pack house will be able to be exported. The farmers will be able to export their produce. In other words, they will be able to be certified to be global gap compliance. So we believe that that in itself is empowering the farmers to be able to explore even the new market opportunities.
Rova rasa konu ulima chitu chine cha market chima chodhi. Sino njira chilima chila matamatisi. After matamatisi ropeza rukubya ngotevelaho. Rasa konu usa su market na overseas rasa konu ita export. And then zazwino at least ro kono wana u create mishumo ka bathu because every day rako shuma usna uri na musisongoda machiro nsongoda.
So in terms of revenue, they will make more profit through a pack house than when they're selling on the farm, because then they give a farm price without value addition. So the pack house is bringing value addition to the farmers and also introducing them to more sophisticated markets like the export market that we're currently sending for the farmers.
To support farmers in the area, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development provides seeds, manure, and also the necessary equipment to work with.
The department decided to come up with a master plan to have a comprehensive development of the area. The master plan comprises the support to farmers with irrigation system, support to farmers with the marketing, support to farmers on training, and support to farmers to make sure that they run their businesses properly.
The idea of erecting the Nwanedi Pack House has broadened the horizon for farmers around the Nwanedi area. Now, the sky is the limit.
Visa.
I love people, I love treating people, I love caring for people. I think that is in my personality. I sometimes say respect is earned, it's not forced down. I'm Captain Yolanda Odendaal. I'm 50 years old. And yes, I've been working in the Defence Force for 30 years. I'm in the medical side of the Defence Force. I work at the Institute for Aviation Medicine. I love my job, I love aviation. I've always actually wanted to be in aviation. It's not difficult. It's a hard challenge, but being a female, depending on how strong you are, you'll survive. They don't call me tough cookie for nothing. I tend to say that I think I'm God's strongest soldier. I believe in that. You work with a lot of different things when you're in the Defence Force. It's a little bit more different than being in civilian street because you get put into different situations. You tend to have it more rough. If you think that you're not able, you are. Any one of us has something that makes us strong, and any one of us has something that makes us unique. And if they want to take the challenge, they must grab it with both arms. I want to wish all the ladies in any place of the country a very happy Women's Day, and stay strong, believe in yourself, have respect and keep going.